Alright, I think I'm live now. Just had a bit of a close call where it wasn't working. Let's see if anybody hops on. I'll lean back a little bit. Stretch. Oh! Okay, we're still waiting. We're still telling people. Alright, people are joining in. Gotta say, the internet reception in Brooklyn has been a bit spotty lately. I think it's because so many people are doing the sort of thing we're doing, watching stuff, streaming stuff, that it's been kind of hard to get on. In fact, yesterday I got some complaints, unfortunately, that it was blurry all day. Hopefully that's not the case what we're having right now. Hopefully this is nice and clear. What I am happy to report is if you couldn't stand looking at blurry George yesterday, which is understandable because I am a very handsome man. If you can't stand watching blurry George, you could just go to my my YouTube, George Olympians, where I've archived all the past episodes. Episode is clear as a bell there. I think because it's actually recording directly onto my phone. It's not having to be broadcast out along the very precious bandwidth, which is being shared by too many people right now, I guess. So how is everybody doing today? I hope you're doing well. I just noticed while I was warming up for this, my hair is getting all long and weird and shaggy, and I'm like, I don't even know how I'm going to get this stuff cut. I don't know how you people are dealing with it. Maybe you're lucky that you're holed up with somebody who's a hairdresser or somebody who's just very brave with a pair of scissors, but I don't know. I think this is going to be an interesting descent into hair madness as we see me get shaggier and shaggier. Want to again say thank you so much to Word Bookstores for hosting this. Word Bookstores is two great independent bookstores, one here in Brooklyn, my hometown, one right across the river in New Jersey. They're a wonderful curated bookstore. Their book staff knows books like nobody's business, and unfortunately, like many businesses, they're really hurting right now. A lot of folks have been asking different ways that can help them. Buying a gift certificate at wordsbookstores.com is always great. There's the Homeward Bound mystery box where they take a few, say you have somebody in mind you want to send a gift to, right? The Word book staff member who answers the phone or takes the email will ask you a few questions about what sort of books this person might like. Make a perfect selection, package it up with a few other gift items, and send it off. So yeah, that's awesome, right? And of course, kind of the coolest way to help them out, if you're watching this, you're probably a fan, right? Or you're just I don't know, you like watching doofy guys talk. I'm going to be doing a comics intensive class Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday for Word. This is going to be done, it's just going to be me on Zoom. I'm going to be talking, we're going to be getting into making some comics. We're going to be designing some characters. We're going to see how to draw them from all different angles. I'm going to be going over the finer points of how a story works, just all the elements like that. I'm going to show you how I make comics, how I make professional comics, everything. This is something that you can actually sign up for at wordbookstores.com. I held the wrong side up, as I always do. If you want to ask more questions, you can write to it, kids at wordbookstores.com. And that's going to be starting on Monday. I think I'm still gonna be doing these. That class, by the way, is not for free. These are still for free because, heck, there's a lot of stuff that we still have to go over in Greek mythology, and last I checked, we're all still stuck in the house. So I'm gonna still try doing this. I'll be posting a schedule over the weekend. Check my Instagram, the George O'Connor. I'll have information about that. I'm sure Word will post some things too. Also, just a little bit of business out of the way. I'm flying solo today. Super assistant Nicole is busy working in other jobs, so it's just me. So when we get to the Q&A period, it might be a little bit hairy. Normally she's there taking questions as we go along, writing them down, because she's just that good. I'm just going to have to rely on what asked at the time. So if you don't get your question answered, please be patient, ask it again. Also, I live with 3 terrible cats. With nobody here to wrangle these cats, goodness only knows what's going to happen. 2 of them are fighting right now on my kitchen table. Will that spill over? Will that consume my whole house? There was an episode last week where I did the solo, and you recall there was a loud crashing noise from my bedroom. That was them knocking over a shelf. Cats. Awesome. So, that's a lot of me rambling. I think that gave people a chance to get ready. I'm going to do one of my patented sips of coffee. And just like that, I'll be up until 1 a.m. because coffee affects me well. If you've never seen an episode before, each episode I go over a different goddess, god, monster, or hero from Greek mythology. I kind of draw some of my designs of them. I talk about the thing that makes them special. And then I invite people who are watching along at home to send me their versions. We've been getting so much mail that we have not been able to show every drawing that I've been getting, which is awesome, right? So I'm just going to show as many as I can today before we run out of room. I think it was on Wednesday, we did a discussion. Cats, quit it. We did, it's gonna be fun, guys. We did a discussion about Heracles, the greatest of Greek heroes. Oh, what happened? See, already it's just madness. And we drew him at 2 different ages. This is Heracles as a baby. I mean, that's cute. And look at his mighty arms. Well done. And then here is a drawing of Heracles as an adult. And I really like this. Look at the attention paid to the bags under his eyes. That's how you know you're an adult when you got bags under your eyes. So you can see mine. I don't really have any right now. It's the glasses hiding it. But yeah, see, he's got the Nemean line in his head. That's a really great drawing. And oof, as I hit myself in the face. Oh, imagine I broke my tooth just then. That would be like something, be good watching, right? Let's see, that's from Joseph, age 8. Man, Joseph, if you're doing that at age 8, you're going to have my job in a few years. Here we're still playing catch-up on Heracles, my goodness. Here's another baby Heracles. I love this one. I don't know, is that his swaddling cloth, or is he just wearing like an adorable little baby bathing suit? I hope it's the bathing suit. I like the idea that, like, you know, his dad was pretty bad. Zeus wasn't really involved in his upbringing, but he still, like, on birthdays would give him weird gifts, like, hey, here's a stripy bathing suit. It's like, thanks, Dad. Thanks, I guess. And then we also have, here's 2 pictures. Hold them up close. We have baby Heracles and adult Heracles. I mean, that's so cute. Oh, and I'm still getting texts, because I get texts all day. Let's see what else we have here. This is one of my favorites. I just love the energy of this. You all know Shiloh. Shiloh draws in for pretty much every episode. Sometimes Shiloh even does interpretive dance movements and such and sings interpretive songs. Shiloh's a real hit around here. Shiloh drew baby Heracles choking the snakes. Look at the snakes. I love this drawing. It's like he's holding them going, whoa, 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 whoa. It's like he's like dancing in between, which actually, thinking about Shiloh, it makes a lot of sense. It's like he's dancing in between these 2 snakes as he's throttling the life out of them. We're still, man, you know, we still haven't even gotten up to the stuff from yesterday. Yesterday, if you didn't join it, I actually, that's when I was talking about Demeter and her daughter Persephone. So today, we're going to this is the perfect series of drawings to bridge the gap into that. Here is a drawing of Heracles completing his 12th labor, which we talked about on Wednesday, where he had to drag Cerberus, Hades' watchdog, up from the underworld. That's pretty great. And then, this one is so fun. Okay, so I talked a lot yesterday about how Demeter and Persephone, although at the time she's named Cora or Cori, they have there's a lot of issues in their relationship. Cori's like a teenager, her mom's older, she's really well-meaning, but she's a bit overprotective. Cori acts up in different ways. Look at this picture capturing that moment of tension. They're kind of like, there's Cori side-eyeing her mom. Her mom's got the sweat coming down the side of her head, and she's thinking, well, Cori's thinking, ugh, because that's what you think when you're a teenager and your parents are there. And poor Demeter's like, what am I doing wrong? Because she just wants what's best for her. She doesn't know. I mean, and look, good attention. The eye colors, golden eyes, brown eyes, just like I talked about. That's an amazing drawing. And then we just have, this is just by the same artist. There's a solo Cori. I guess that's probably right after she gets down to the underworld for the first time. That's amazing work. That is from Grace. She's age 12. If I forget to say your names, I'm sorry. I know your names. You know your drawing. Say it in the comments maybe even. It's just like I said, I'm flying blind here. I'm pretty sure my cats just killed a guy in the other room. I don't know what's happening here. I mean, it shouldn't be the guy in the other room, but... This one is super sweet. Because I did end up talking a lot about the strife between Cora and Demeter, and I felt kind of bad about that. Because ultimately, I think they do love each other, like, a lot. Like, what's more important than the mother-daughter bond? Like, my mom and my sister, My sister drives my mom crazy like nobody else. It's hilarious, but she also loves my sister more than anybody else. It's a really important bond. This is a really amazing drawing, showing them, as the caption says in the email, in happier times. But I just love that, and they're instantly recognizable. And they're holding hands, and that's sweet as could be. That is from Ella. I Greeked that up. That's from Ella. That's one of the things I'm sure you've noticed. Sometimes I really lean into the Greekisms of these names. Sometimes I just don't. I'm all over the place with this stuff. It's been crazy times. Crazy times, everybody. Oh, check out this one. This is great. This is Cora on the day she's about to be abducted. There's Hades comes steaming at her in his chariot, holding aloft his bident. I'm pretty sure this is one of her two friends who is later transformed into one of the sirens or the harpies, depending on the version. So the wings are springing out. It might be Demeter, like just with an artistic interpretation. That's pretty great. That was the same artist who drew the really fun picture of Hera coming back from her one day off, and she catches Zeus in the act. She's like, oh man. So that is from Addie. Addie, terrific artist. Way to go. Let's do a few more here. Okay. This one, I love this drawing. This is from Mashaya. Oh, I've been pronouncing her Makaya up until now. So today she gave me phonetic pronunciation because I'm a dumb. Mashaya drew this really amazing version of Persephone. Kind of playing off, she says in the letter, of some of the ideas I talked about, where I kind of just, as I was drawing her, I said like, there wasn't such a thing as goth back then, but she had a little bit of the goth elements, and I mentioned maybe she would have a nose ring and an eyebrow ring and everything. And so there she is with that. Like, that's really great. That drawing is so great, it kind of looks like it's a portrait of someone, right? That looks like you could almost picture the real person that's based on. So, Mashaya, that's awesome. Let's see. Oh, these we've seen this artist artwork before. This is Eleanor. Yes, Eleanor has amazing energy. Here is her Demeter, and Demeter is surrounded by all these growing things. It looks like there's some radishes and some carrots, and there's some stalks of wheat and such. And then here's her Persephone, and I don't think Persephone is surrounded by growing things. I think she's probably surrounded by maybe dead people. I don't know. It makes sense, or maybe it's seeds. Or maybe it is growing scenes. Maybe it says. I don't know. Great energy, though. I just love that. Like, the way that she goes out to the page and the bright colors. Like, that's the mark of a fearless artist. And that's really pretty amazing. Oh, my gosh. Now, this one goes back quite a few days. But that's okay. This was from Tuesday's lecture on Hephaestus, the god of the forge. And once again, just like with baby Heracles, we drew him both as a baby and as an adult. A lot of these gods will have myths where they play an important scene, like they play important roles in their as their children too. So like in Hephaestus is the case, he gets thrown off Mount Olympus, kind of a rough story. So this is baby Hephaestus. I know it's very ugly, but if you saw the lecture we talk about, he's an ugly baby. It's unfortunate. And he's thinking, my eyes. So I guess maybe he's looking in the mirror, or maybe it's somebody else is thinking that. And I mean, that's just sad. And then check out this one. Oh, I have to shrink it down a little bit so you can see it. This is the part I really enjoy. Wait, actually, looking at this just now, I think I just realized I thought this was a super, like, beat up, dirty Hephaestus. I think this is actually a super beat up Ares, because we talked in there about how Hephaestus, after years of taking abuse from his brother, finally just whoops Ares one day, throwing hot molten metal at him and burning his hair and all this stuff. And I'm pretty sure actually that's what it is, because I'm like, man, Hephaestus needs to blow his nose, but I don't think that's just boogies coming out of his nose. I think he got thumped. So that's pretty funny. That comes from Misha. Nope, doesn't say anything specific if that's... Misha, let me know if that was... is that a beaten up... Oh, those... And by the way, we have Eleanor just confirmed. I saw they are not, in fact, dead people. They are not, in fact, seeds. The things surrounding Persephone are pomegranates. Makes a lot of sense. And last drawings, because these are really great, and they're really good ones to go out on. These are from this is from the sibling teams of Nora and Drake. I believe the first two are from Nora. There is her very beautiful, very colorful, using the entire page to draw an entire picture Demeter. That's great. What an awesome drawing. And then here is her Artemis from a few days ago. And there is one of her hunting dogs. It looks like she's being joined in the hunt by one of her Oceanides or nymphs. Again, look at the way she's just engaging the entire page. This is so amazing. And then there's one more picture. This is from Drake. And I think this one, Drake is the little brother. I think Drake, yeah, I would have to say this looks like it's another Athena. Like, Drake seems to be a really big Athena fan, and who can blame him? Because Athena's the best, right? And that's like her spear, or like it's like electrified, but they could see her robes, and there's her helmet. Way to go, guys. So that's an amazing crop of work. I always say it makes me so happy to see this. It's been a hard time for us in a lot of ways, for all of us in different ways. And one of the things that makes me so happy is seeing this artwork. It's such a treat, and thank you all for sharing it. And if I didn't get a chance to show your stuff, we're getting into a bit of a backlog, so I'll hopefully catch up. I might even, because we've been getting so many good questions, I might even be recording like just a special little video this weekend where I just answer questions. I won't be taking new ones because that's kind of like I'll be digging a hole I never get out of. But remember, hold your questions to the end today because Super Assistant Nicole, not here. I'm not going to be able to read it except for when it pops by. So, sorry if I miss your questions. But today, we are here to talk about a very specific man. No, not a man. A god. No, not a god. A titan. His name is Prometheus. Now, I don't know if you guys have read my book, Hephaestus, which I meant to get, but I forgot, but it's right up there, actually I can grab it easier enough. That was kind of a little homage to a bit of speaking that's done in that book. Prometheus is a very familiar figure in Greek mythology. If you've ever been to Rockefeller Center, you know the famous ice skating rink, there's that figure kind of like in this, pose. That's Prometheus. And I said he's a titan. It's kind of up in the air what he is. So let's talk a little bit about his history, okay? Prometheus, well, like I said, he's normally referred to as a titan. He could actually be argued to be of a similar generation as the Olympians. So, the first god was Gaia. And she creates Uranos, the sky. Gaia is the Mother Earth. And together, they have the first generation of gods. And that's the Titans. And there's also, sometimes we forget, there's the first three Cyclopes and the three Hecatoncheires, right? We'll get to them another day. But then the Titans are the first gods, and they're like the gods of time. And I at first was going to be excited, be like, yeah, this is the first time we're talking about a Titan, but it's not true. We already talked on a special Saturday episode, back when I didn't know what day it was. We talked all about Kronos. Kronos was the leader of the first generation of Titans. He overthrew Uranos, sliced him open with a giant sickle. And Kronos, along with Rhea, is the father of Zeus and the first generation of Olympians. Now, Kronos, there's other Titans. There's Oceanus, he's the Titan of the ocean, for instance. There's Hyperion, he was the ocean. The Titans, the Titans were assigned like pillars of the cosmos, kind of like they stood in different corners of the earth. And the Titan of the far east was Hyperion, right? And the Titan of the far west was this dude called Iapetus. And Iapetus is the father of Prometheus. And Prometheus has some brothers and, just brothers. I don't think he has a sister. Most famously is his most famous brother is Atlas. And it's really interesting because Atlas is unequivocally considered a Titan. But Prometheus people go back and forth on. Their mother was a woman named Clymene. Well, I say woman. She's not a woman. She's an Oceanide. I used that term already. Oceanide means a daughter of the ocean. So she's like a second generation herself, right? Oceanus had a daughter. He had like 40 daughters, actually. But one of them was Clymene. And Clymene marries Iapetus, who actually is her uncle if you think about it, but don't worry about it. It's weird. It's full of Greek weirdness. And then they have 4 kids. They have Atlas, who is just like his father. Huge, towering, powerful, a titan. Then they have Miniotius, I think is how it's pronounced. Also the same, giant, huge, massive, just like the parents. But then they have 2 kids that are actually a lot more similar to people. They're still big. They're actually maybe more akin to the Olympians, though they don't seem to show the same talent for shape-changing that Olympians do. And that's Prometheus, our boy who we're going to talk about tonight, and his brother Epimetheus. Prometheus, I guess you could say he is, you could say he's the god or the titan, or how about we say he's the titan god of forethought. His name literally means that, forethought. And what does forethought mean? It means the ability to think ahead. And that's kind of taken literally with Prometheus. He's actually, much like Apollo, he has the gift of prognostication. He can see the future. Not everything, but he certainly has glimpses of the future. Now, is it because he can actually, like literally have psychic flashes that haven't occurred yet? Or is it just that he's so smart and he's just able to kind of deduce things that happen? I honestly don't know, because he's an interesting cat. His brother, Epimetheus, his name means afterthought. And that name's very telling, too. Because Epimetheus is both often an afterthought in these stories. We forget. Spam risk phone call. You gotta love those things happening during the pandemic. So where was it? Epimetheus. He's an afterthought both in the stories where he doesn't play an important role. And he is, he's not good at thinking ahead. He's kind of like, Prometheus always looking to the future, making plans. Epimetheus is more like, man, I really wish I hadn't licked that doorknob yesterday, because that was just a bad move. But he did lick the doorknob anyway. It's like, come on, Epimetheus. I feel like I should draw Prometheus at this point. I'm going to do like one of the head things. This is hilarious. Today, I had posted a picture of Prometheus. A friend of mine was like, hey, Prometheus looks just like you. I didn't really realize that, but he kind of does. He's like a better looking version of me, to be sure, but he's kind of serious. I'm going to draw him looking ahead to the side. Prometheus is very much, let's just call him a god for now. I know some of you guys will be like, he's a titan. We don't know what he is. Guyton? Can we call him that? A Todd? Let's call him a Todd. He is a Todd of the people. All of his myths, and we'll talk about his myths, often like they all relate to his relationship to humanity. So he's pretty good looking. He's not like the Olympians. He's not like unbelievably gorgeous. I mean, he can't. He, as someone pointed out, he looks like me. This is why. He's got a beard. He's a little shaggy. He doesn't take a lot of care of himself. When the big war of the Titans happened, where the gods fought against the Titans, even though he's kind of a Titan, kind of a god, he kind of falls in between. He opted not to fight on either side. He didn't want to fight with the Olympians. He didn't want to fight with his dad and the other Titans. He was actually worried about the people. So he goes underground. He tries to help the people as much as he can, because he's like, oh, it's all very well. All you people could throw up mountains and like just rip them out of the earth's crust and hurl them across the world. That's great, but what about these little tiny people that live here? And what's interesting about that, there is a kind of a strain of Greek mythology where Prometheus isn't just the protector of mankind. He is the creator of mankind. In this particular story, and this story you will not find in Olympians, because this story, the sources for it, I'll get super technical here, main sources for it, it's like Plato, who's not really a mythographer. He's more of a guy who speaks in parables, right? And Aesop, who's definitely not a mythographer, he tells funny stories. And Sappho, who kind of refers to it, she doesn't really do myths either. It's kind of a story that's told, so here's the thing, I don't think people believed this story. I think it was a story that was symbolic to them. I think a lot of the myths people really believed. I don't think that they believed this one. So in this version, Zeus, well, see, this is one reason it doesn't make sense, because like Zeus is already around and like Athena's already around in this. Like they're like, well, somebody's got to make people. And they assign it to this guy, Prometheus, and his brother, Epimetheus. Not just people. They have to make all life. They have to make animals, all this stuff. So that's just a weird story. Like, he should be much more important if he made everything, right? So Prometheus, because he's the one who looks ahead, he's very careful. He takes his time. He really thinks about it. He's working on designing people as carefully as he can. And there's like this big pile of attributes like claws and armor and super strength and breathes underwater, all these cool things. And Epimetheus, he's making the rest of the animals. He's like looking at his brother like, why is that taking so long? He's like, do-loot-do, sticking all stuff together. He like makes like a platypus. It's like, man, you really should have pulled back a few traits there. It's got a duck beak and poison quill in its armpit and a beaver tail. Just one thing at a time, buddy. But he ends up using up the entire pile. And so Prometheus, he sets back after a long day's work. He's like, there, I have created humankind. Now he goes to look to put something on, and there's like nothing. And he looks over at the human, and like the human just like this kind of like soft, like, you know, naked little thing. It's like, all right, you take away our brains, we lose a fight against every animal. My cats could probably beat me up. If we were the same size, I would definitely lose to my cats. It's like a tiger. They would eat me in a second. And Prometheus, you know, he's already in this myth. He's already looking out for humankind. He's like, gotta do something for him. And in this version of the story, this is why he steals fire. He raids the workshop of Hephaestus, the god of fire, who we spoke about previously. And he steals flame to give it to humans, so they have some advantage to combat all the saber-toothed tigers and woolly mammoths and whatever else superpowered creatures there are. It's a fun story. It's hard to coincide with the rest of Greek mythology, so I just think it's like a parable. It's not one of the stories that, quote-unquote, really happened. But what definitely really happened with him, he was the protector of humankind. He had an idea looking out. Somebody asked a question earlier in the week, which I thought was just brilliant. Like, why do the gods feel like they should be worshipped if they do so little to look out for people? And it's an interesting point. The gods, the gods are as far above us as we are above like an ant, or even further maybe. And like they don't do a lot for us. But Prometheus, he's definitely not on an Olympian level, but he really tried, right? First thing he did is called the trick at Mycenae. So the gods, in their super duper power, decide, you know what? I want these people to worship us. I want them to look up to us. Okay, I want sacrifices. Now gods don't eat human food, right? They don't. They eat ambrosia and nectar, and that's it. And they don't even really need to if they didn't want to. God can go a few thousand years without eating. It's okay. They're like balls of energy. It's okay. But they still want the sacrifice. And this one town, this one region, Mycenae, right? Where they had made a deal with the people. They're going to appear and you're going to sacrifice to us. I forget how many oxen it is. Let's say 11, because 11's a number that comes up a lot in Greek myths. And they come down, they make their appearance. Boom! They're like, hello, humans. Let us see this sacrifice. And they want the sacrifice to be burnt to them. So they can just smell it. They don't eat, but they just want to know that it's a sacrifice. It makes sense. A sacrifice has to hurt. If you're giving up something you don't want, it's not really a sacrifice. That's like throwing stuff away, right? But a cow, an ox, that was a lot back then. That's like, you know, a week's salary or more. That was like, that would feed your family and like help you run your farm. This was a hard thing for people to give up, but the gods wanted that. And Prometheus is like, these people have a hard enough time already. So Prometheus, he kind of steps in as the counsel, as like the lawyer. He's like, I'd like to speak for these people. And Zeus is like, motion, what is it? I don't know my legalese clearly. Sure, talk for him, guys. And he's like, okay. He's like, I took the liberty of already separating this sacrifice into 2 separate piles. And Zeus and the other gods look over, and sure enough, the cattle, the oxen, already been chopped up. And there's 2 piles. And one pile is just like this very neatly arranged pile. You can just see the glistening fat over the top of it, and just like everything's all nice. And the other pile is just like a pile of entrails and like bone, like horns and like hooves, like gross stuff. And he's like, which one do you want to choose? And Zeus is like, well, I'm going to take the one that looks nice. I'm going to take the one with the glistening fat all over it. I mean, glistening fat doesn't sound like it's nice. I guess it's nicer from a cook point of view than like hooves. Nobody wants to eat a hoof. And he's like, fooled you, Zeus. Turns out, and he pulls back the fat, and that's like all like the bones and stuff. That's the stuff you really, really don't want. And he's like, I actually, underneath these entrails, that's where I saved the meat, the steaks, the ground chuck, all the stuff you really want. And Zeus is like, oh, and he kind of sets the establishment, for that's the way sacrifices were done in ancient Greece. You would sacrifice a cow or whatever animal, and you would keep the good meat for yourself to eat, and you would burn a certain portion of it, which would include like, you know, the fat, but that's okay. But you would burn like the hooves and like stuff like that. You'd give that to the gods, and they would just smell it and be like, cool, nice, thanks for sacrifice. But that kind of puts Zeus, like Prometheus on Zeus's radar. He's like, okay, I'm keeping an eye out on you. You're a bit of a troublemaker. And in fact, you're such a troublemaker. You like this so much, he goes to his son Hephaestus, the god of fire. And he's like, take their fire away. And Hephaestus, in my book at least, claps his hands, whoosh, and flame disappears from the world. Because fire, you know, back in the day before the Titanomachy, the people They had everything they wanted. It just would appear on the ground, on the trees, and the food they just had to eat. And after like this war between the gods really kind of tears the earth up, they had to work for themselves. And fire, whether or not you believe that first story, Prometheus created people out of clay, fire was one of the things that evened out. And suddenly people didn't have fire. They had no way to keep themselves warm or to cook their food. I don't really know how Hestia, the goddess of the hearth, felt about this. Feels like this was really a case of Hephaestus stepping on her toes. Like that should have definitely been her thing. She's like, really? Those are my people. But we don't get to hear that in the story. Oh, my cats just fought. Way to go, dummies. So, then humans have no fire, and they're at this incredible disadvantage, and the darkness of the world really clouds around them, and they're in danger all the time, and they can't eat their food that they cook, and they're freezing, and it's rough. And Zeus, he's like having a party up in Olympus. He doesn't really care. And Prometheus, he sneaks into the forge of Hephaestus and steals a little ember, like a little coal, puts it in a little, like a stalk made of fennel root, and he carries it down to earth. And that's why you see pictures of him. He's holding this torch. And he takes this little fire and he spreads it all over the world. He gives fire back to humans. And Zeus is mad. And Prometheus' punishment is one of the most famous punishments of all time. Prometheus is bound. It's a very famous play by Aeschylus, which I've mentioned before. I'm going to draw this real quick. He's bound by, Zeus makes Hephaestus bind Prometheus to a mountain's top. It's the Caucasus Mountains. I think today that's in Russia, if I'm correct. He binds him with tethers made of unbreakable adamantine. Now, Zeus could actually break adamantine, as it turns out, and most Olympians could just like transform to get out of this. But like I said, Prometheus, unfortunately, he doesn't really have that shape-shifting talent. He's very strong by human standards. He's immortal. He's got, kind of like Wolverine, he's got a healing factor, which I'll talk about shortly. But he's not able to change shape, so he can't slip out of these bonds. He's just bound to this mountaintop. Which that seems pretty rough, right? It's cold. It's very cold. It's in Russia. But then it's worse. Because every day, in some versions it's a vulture. In my version it's an eagle. It makes more sense to me. Because eagle is the bird of Zeus. A giant eagle flies every day to where Prometheus is bound. And this is disgusting. Cover your parents' ears if they're listening. Every day it eats his liver. Yeah, it eats. I think livers are here. They're over here, maybe. I don't know where livers are. I'm not a doctor. Every day he eats his liver. And because he heals, because he's immortal, every day his liver grows back. And then every day this happens again. And this goes on for generations. This happens in like early on, right? This is early on time people. He's up there for so long, it's probably hundreds of years. It's not until years and years and years later that Heracles, the greatest of the Greek heroes we talked about on Wednesday, I think, Heracles finally comes and frees him. And this is the price he pays for helping humankind. Now, before I end this lecture quickly, I talked about this, there is another reason. It's probably the real reason why Zeus did this. Remember how I said he's the god of forethought? How he has the gift of prophecy? Well, in the play Prometheus Bound by Aeschylus, he's being bound not just because he stole the fire. That's almost like the excuse. Hephaestus binds him, and then my main man Hermes comes. And Hermes is interrogating Prometheus. And it's very interesting because really... Oh, we didn't quite see the eagle, huh? Let me move it over a little bit. Oh, there you go. There's the eagle. Stuff shifted. It's very interesting because they're kind of both trickster gods. He's a trickster god working on behalf of humanity. He's stealing from them stuff for them, trying to look out for them. But he does it by being smarter than the other people. And Hermes, he's unequivocally the trickster of the Olympians. He's like working for his dad in here, right? Like, so he's like, he interrogates him. He's like, I hear you had a precognitive flash. You saw the future, and you know how Zeus will be overthrown. And if you know anything about Zeus, aside from the fact that he's a terrible husband, Zeus will do anything to hold on to being king of the gods. He's not stupid. He's seen what's happened. He overthrew his dad, Kronos. Kronos overthrew his dad, Uranos. He sees how this is a trend. And then this Titan, who's got it out for Zeus, suddenly says that he knows the way Zeus is going to be overthrown. And Hermes kind of gets up there and is like, you know what, you tell us, we'll let you go. You don't have to have your liver eaten every day for like 300 years. It's good. It's a win-win situation. And he doesn't. The play ends where he refuses to tell Hermes. And Zeus, from up on Mount Olympus, off stage, you don't get to see him, throws a lightning bolt, and boom, it blows up the mountain and casts him into a pit. To be continued? We don't know. The Prometheus Bound was the first of a trilogy that the other two plays are lost. So we don't even really know what Prometheus knew. And I love that. It's like a mystery. He had some idea of how Zeus would be overthrown. We don't know what that is. So it's this great mystery for the ages. Like, what was the mystery? What did he know? What does he see? Is there a myth we don't even know where Zeus gets overthrown? I don't know. It's pretty cool though, right? So I think that's it for today for Prometheus. There's so much to say about Prometheus. This has been the problem with everyone, right? There's so much to say about them that if this series continues, I'll probably double back around to everybody and go further into specific myths. But I think now this is a good time for me to take some questions. I know there's going to be a little bit of a lag. Normally, Super Assistant Nicole's been jotting these down. I see people waving, so I'm going to wave. I'm going to take a sip of water because I'm very thirsty. It's very hot. You probably see me sweating. And then as questions appear, I will happily answer them. Let's see. No questions yet. A lot of hearts. I like that, though. Let's see. In my book, I also showed a pile of hay. I'm not where. Which part? I think you were talking about some other part that I saw before. No, Atlas is holding up the sky. Oh, I think there must be an agreement here. Let's talk about the Titans a little bit, okay? So, like I said, there's the argument: is he a Titan? Is he not a Titan? I don't know. You decide. The other Titans, when they fought against the Olympians, most of them were imprisoned underground in Tartarus, but except for Atlas, his brother. Atlas was singled out for a special, unique punishment. Atlas, it's a super famous image, is holding up the sky. The sky was so damaged in the Battle of the Gods that he has to be the one who holds it. So, that's kind of a really unique punishment. We talked about that. I'm going to have to do one about Atlas, because Atlas is a super fascinating character. One of the things that's so interesting to me, like I mentioned up front, how come he's kind of normal, almost human, and Atlas is this towering monster? I don't know. So we have a bunch of questions now, so let's start taking them. Did you get into Olympians as a child? If so, what books were your favorites? Yeah, I was introduced to Greek gods it was third grade. I was in a special class where we did learning based on projects. It was called STEPS. I don't know what STEPS stands for. It was an acronym. And we did a whole section on Greek mythology. And it was the coolest thing in the world to me because I got to draw stuff like Heracles fighting a lion and stuff. It was just oh my gosh, this is awesome. My favorite book as a kid, and it's still one of my favorite books. It's just a little bit out of sight, or I'd grab it. I'll be back. Let me show you. I mean, this is my third version I've gone through this book. Delaire's Book of Greek Myths is so awesome. And I used to take it out from the library all the time as a kid. I've had another hardcover that fell apart. I love this book so much. It did such an amazing job of retelling Greek myths. And this is one of the things that really got me into it. Also, learning about it in school, that really helped. Let's see what else we got. Did Prometheus know he'd be punished for stealing the flame, but did it anyway? Yeah, I think he did. It was pretty much... Zeus kind of, you see it in my book, Hephaestus, which tells the story of Prometheus, in addition to Hephaestus, Zeus is kind of gives him a real warning. After the trick at Mycenae, where he tricks the way the sacrifices are going to be done, he's watch out, buddy, because there's two sides. And you were smart enough when I fought against your father, Iapetus, the other Titans, not to join with them. And you've helped us out on a few occasions, Olympians, but if you go against us again, it's not going to go well for you. So Prometheus is actually a very heroic character, I think. Why did Zeus take away fire? Because without fire, no one can make a sacrifice. That's a really great question. I think, personally, have you ever heard the expression, cut off your nose to spite your face? He's like, well, fine, you're gonna give us the gross parts? I don't want the gross parts anyway. I don't eat it. Let it smell, just let it rot and let that stink deal with it. It's an excellent question, because, and like I mentioned also, like, how did his older sister Hestia feel about that? She must have been annoyed, right? She's like, oh, so let me get this straight. You got so mad you took away fire from them. I'm the goddess of fire. My whole purpose is to be in their houses and warm them up and cook their food and all that stuff. And you just took that away? And he's like, yeah, but they gave me the stinky meat. Like, yeah, Zeus, I think eventually, honestly, he would have had to go back on that. Because also, I mean, if they want people to worship, they're not going to worship it. There's not going to be people worshiping if they're getting, like, murdered by every animal and monster in the world, which is what's going to happen with that fire. Let's see. If you were a god, what would you want to be the god of? Now, I always follow this up. Do I get to have just their powers? Or do I have their powers and responsibilities? Because if it was just straight up powers, I'd want to be like Hermes. I don't want to be that fast. Then I could be in a million places at once. Like, people ask me, like, it's a similar question, like, if you could have one superpower, what would you want? And I'd either want to be, like, insanely fast, like Hermes fast, or even better, maybe like be able to make duplicates of myself so I could do many things at once. Like, I could draw a book in a day because I just have, like, I just make 66 of me and we each draw a page. So maybe, so how about if I'm the god and I have the responsibilities, I'm the god of multiplication. Does that make sense? I guess. Like, so I'm just like, I'm the god of Xeroxes, maybe. That's probably a copyright. I'm the god of carbon copies. How's that? Because I make carbon copies of myself. I like that idea. Do you think that Zeus would forgive Prometheus eventually? Yeah, I do think he would forgive Zeus. I think Zeus would. The whole thing about, I spent a lot of time thinking about this. And the idea, like, the gods are operating at a very different time frame than us. A human lifespan could seem like an afternoon to them. And I feel like they could very easily lose track of it and be like, look down, like, oh man, look, it's the 21st century. When did that happen? They're immortal. So I think there is a tendency amongst them to do some terrible things to each other. But because they're kind of with each other for the long haul, I think they would eventually forgive each other. And in fact, I think there's little snippets, little tiny bits of the other stories in the Prometheus trilogy by Aeschylus that have survived. And if I'm remembering correctly, there is a hint of something that survives that makes it seem as if there's a scene where he and Zeus are talking, which would seem to, like, at least show that they could tolerate each other to a certain degree. You could even argue maybe Zeus, like, because he's the master plan guy, maybe he knew that Heracles would go there and free him eventually, and that was his design. I mean, if I was Zeus, I would take credit for that, because, it would certainly help. From Eleanor, how did Heracles defeat the Hydra? Well, one could argue Heracles didn't defeat the Hydra. The Hydra, those of you who know and don't know, Hydra was a creature, a monster. She was the daughter of Typhon and Echidna, and she had, every time you cut off one of her heads, two more would take her place. And Heracles went into the swamp of Lerna where she lived and just started knocking off heads because he's not the brightest. And she kept growing more and more heads. And next thing you know, he's fighting a monster with like 100 heads. And he's getting overwhelmed and eventually he's going to lose. But luckily, he brought along his 10-year-old nephew Aeolus. And Aeolus takes a torch. And next time Heracles knocks off a head, he touches the torch to it and it burns the flesh. And then no new heads grow. So he defeats the Hydra with the help of his nephew. So he's like, batter up, and he smacks off a head, and his nephew burns it. And then he goes, clobbering time, and he smacks off another head, and his nephew burns it. And then they defeat the Hydra, and there's one head left. I don't show this in the book because it was just too long. There's one head left that's immortal and can't be cut off. He picks up a giant rock and just drops it on top of it. So presumably the Hydra's still under a rock somewhere. But that's actually, Eleanor, that's the reason why, that's one of the two myths of his 12 labors. Originally it's his 10 labors, he has to redo, because Hera's like, you didn't beat the Hydra. Aeolus did. So he has to redo that one. Let's see. Oh, somebody even said his nephew burned the stumps, and then the Hydra can grow new heads. Uh-oh, and looks like we've caught up to questions, I think. So are we done with questions? If so, this might be an earlier episode. I'll give it a few more seconds. See if anybody asks something up front. Okay, so this will be a good time for me to talk about. So I'll be back again on. Oh, well, here we go. Just like how Prometheus seemed to lack foresight, did Prometheus lack his hindsight? Ooh, what a good question. That's an interesting thought. Like, what if, like, when he's sitting there, strapped on the mountain, did he look back and regret what he did? Maybe not at first. But after, like, say, the first 36 years of this, do you think he was just like, man, really kind of wish I hadn't helped those people? Probably Zeus would have realized they couldn't make sacrifices eventually anyway, and they would have just given the fire back. And now here I am. You know, I had a pretty nice stamp collection going. I don't even know what happened in my garden. My liver really hurts. This really stinks. I'm really bored, and it's cold, and oh, here comes that eagle again. Oh, he's going to eat my liver. Oh, yeah, I regret it. I don't know. That's great. I love that. That's a great question. So, okay. We're going to wrap this one up a little bit early. That's okay. It's Friday. It's been a long week. We've all had stuff. So, starting Monday, I will be doing some more of these. Don't have the exact schedule yet, but I will be posting that. I think it'll be both here on Word, also my Instagram at @TheGeorgeO'Connor. If you're interested in signing up for that comics class, it's going to be 3 sessions. We're going to be creating characters and learning how to draw them from different angles. We're going to be writing a story, going over the elements that make up a story, all the things about a story. And then the third one, we're actually going to create like a comic together. I'm going to show you the techniques I use as a professional cartoonist to do this stuff. And you're going to see, I'll show you some artwork that nobody's ever seen. If you want to be part of this class, go to wordbookstores.com. There's a whole page there you can sign up for it. Just type in my name, George O'Connor, in the search. It'll come up. And that'll be great. If not, don't worry. I'll still be doing these lectures. I don't know who yet. If you have any suggestions of who you'd like to see, maybe write me at my email, georgeo'connorbooks@gmail.com. And you could also send me your pictures. Maybe you want to send a picture of Prometheus bound, or just normal Prometheus, or maybe Prometheus in happier days where he's just hanging out with Epimetheus and they're playing checkers and he wins every time because Epimetheus can only think, oh, I should have done that jump. Oh, I should have done that jump. Or whatever it is. But everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. It's been my pleasure talking to you all. And hopefully I'll see some of you on Monday in the class. I'll actually be seeing you because we're doing Zoom. And if not, I'll see the rest of you, or even those of you, if you don't get enough of me just in the class, I'll see you here when we talk about some more Greek Speakery. So everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. And I'll see you all soon. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.